Well, now the January 6th committee has asked Donald J. Trump to come in and testify under oath. And, well, let's just say Trump wrote them a letter. And why not hear from the horse's mouth? No pun intended. But go ahead, Trump. Read your letter.
Yeah, Dark Knight. Yeah, Donald J. Trump here. Did you see what they did to me on January 6th committee? The BS. Bullshit. Yeah, that's what they did. This is Donald J. Trump here. Donald J. Trump here, and I have a response. Yes, I wrote a strongly worded message. And I'm going to send it over there expeditiously. Do you know what that means, Dark Knight? Yeah, a lot of people don't know. That means quickly with authority. Okay, so I'm going to write this letter, and I'll start off with, well, this is the way I'm writing the letter, is peacefully and patriotically. Yes, that's the way we do it, peacefully and patriotically. Yes, Donald J. Trump, that's the way everything's done. So anyways, Dark Knights, this is my letter. Dear Chairman Thompson, the presidential election of 2020 was rigged and stolen. The same group of radical left Democrats who utilized their majority position in Congress to create the fiction of Russia impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, the 48 million Mueller report, which ended up in no collusion, Ukraine, the atrocious and illegal spying on my campaign, and so much more, are the people who created the committee of highly partisan political acts and thugs whose sole function is to destroy the lives of many hard-working American patriots whose records in life have been unblemished until the point of attempted re-inauguration. The double standard of the unselects between what has taken place on the right and what has taken place with the radical left, lawless groups such as Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and others is startling and will never be acceptable, even to those who will be writing the history of what you have done to America. This memo is being written to express our anger, disappointment, and complaint with all of the hundreds of millions of dollars spent on what many consider to be a charade and witch hunt. Despite strong and powerful requests, you have not spent even a short moment on examining the massive election fraud that took place during the 2020 presidential election, and have targeted only those who were, as concerned American citizens, protecting the fraud itself. Those who committed the fraud, thereby having created the crime of the century, go unblemished and untouched. But those who fought the crime have suffered a fate that was unthinkable just a short time ago. We have a two-tier system of justice in the United States that cannot be allowed to continue. A majority of people in our country say that the presidential election of 2020 was detrimentally dishonest, including the fact that many legislatures were overridden by local, state, and politicians and judges on vital regulations and requirements, which is totally illegal and unconstitutional. In February of 2021, Time magazine broke the story of the shadow campaign that was launched to rig the 2020 presidential election. The authors write, quotation, to the president, something felt amiss. Quote, it was all very, very strange, Trump said on December 2nd, within days after the election. We witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint the winner, even while many key states were still being counted. In a way, Trump was right. There was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, ... end quote. You did not ask one question about any of this. Since 1888, no incumbent president has gained votes and lost re-election. I received many millions more votes in 2020 than I did in 2016. Unheard of in our political history. When you win Ohio, Florida, and Iowa, which I did in a landslide. No president has lost the general election since 1960. We swept all 4 bellwether states, Iowa, Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina, that have correctly predicted the election winners since 1896. I won 18 of the 19 bellwether countries. My collaterals secured the victories of 27 out of 27 toss-up House races. And the Democrats did not flip a single state legislature. Yet somehow, Biden beat Obama with the black population in select swing state cities, but nowhere else. It is all not possible or very likely, but should have been a major subject in our committee's work because it was the election result that had brought this record-breaking crowd to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. A large percentage of American citizens, including almost the entire Republican Party, feel that the election was rigged and stolen because they have seen detrimental evidence, some of which is attached to this letter. No work was done by the Committee on Election Fraud. We, and a huge portion of American people, simply asked that it be part of your committee's work. It wasn't. In addition, the Unselect Committee has willfully ignored the fact that days before the January 6, 2021, I recommended and authorized thousands of troops to be deployed to ensure that there was peace and safety and security at the Capitol and throughout Washington, D.C. on January 6th because I knew, just based on instinct and what I was hearing, and the crowd coming to listen to my speech and various others would be a very big one, far bigger than anyone thought possible. As it turns out, it was indeed one of the largest crowds I have ever spoken before, a very wide swath stretching all the way back to the Washington Monument. The massive size of the crowd and its meaning has never been subject of your committee, nor has it been discussed by the fake news media that absolutely refuses to acknowledge in any way, shape, or form the magnitude of what was taking place. In fact, for such a historic event, there are very few pictures that accurately show the event or how many people were really there. Incredibly, it seems that the pictures showing the size of the event were perhaps canceled, scrubbed, deleted, or in any event, not available. But we still have some as attached. The Department of Defense timeline shows that National Guard troops could have easily been present at the Capitol before the January 6th, and that I fully authorized this recommendation and request. Following my authorization, the Department of Defense was surprised to receive a wholesale refusal in writing from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and the Capitol Police, who do not report to me, but report to Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. The law requires that the authorization be any troop deployment could be utilized in Washington, D.C. Why the failure to act or to use this ready force? Had even a small percentage of the National Guard or fencing been there, there would have been no problem. January 6th would have been just another date. I did my job long ahead of schedule. Some people call it good instinct, but the troops were ready to go. Nancy Pelosi and Muriel Bowser didn't do their job. They didn't like the look of soldiers. And sadly, your committee refuses to say anything about it. Because if they did, it would be clear that I did everything correctly. And that is not what the committee wants to see. You stated openly that Nancy Pelosi is off limits. There will be no discussion on this subject. Yet she and the mayor were responsible for this very bad decision not to bring in the troops. The troops were ready to go, and you refused to even discuss this subject. Why? Despite very poor television ratings, the United States Committee has perpetrated a trial of which this country has never seen before. There is no due process, no cross-examination, no, quote, real, unquote, Republican members, and no legitimacy since you did not talk about the electoral fraud or not calling up the troops. It is a witch hunt of the highest level, a continuation of what was going on for years. You have not gone after the people that created the fraud, but rather great American patriots who questioned it as is their constitutional right. These people have had their lives ruined as your committee sits back and basks in the glow. The people of this country will not stand for an unequal justice under the law, or liberty or justice for some. Election day is coming. We demand answers on the crime of the century. Sincerely, Donald J. Trump.
45th President of the United States. Carbon copy, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, Congress Adam Schiff, Congress Pete Aguilar, Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, Congressman Jamie Raskin, Congresswoman Elaine Luria, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, Congresswoman Adam Kinzinger. And did you see my beautiful pictures appendix? Oh, look at the crowd. It was the crowdiest crowd of all the crowds. You can go and look at the pictures, see the pictures. Look at those crowds, the most magnificent, most largest. Like my brain. I will continue reading. Okay, Arizona, Maricopa County accepted at least 20,000 mail-in ballots after Election Day 2020, including 18,000 on November 4th, 2020, picked up from U.S. Postal Service, more than the entire election margin of 10,457 ballots. Bullet point number 2. A study of early ballot envelope signatures identified 229,430 mismatched signatures in Maricopa County. Officials not only reported 25,000 mismatches, or 1.3%. Bullet point: the Arizona Forensic Audit of Maricopa County identified numerous anomalies, fraud, and election law violations that are determinative, including 17,322 duplicate absentee ballot envelopes, which surged after the election. Between November 4th and November 9th, scores of mail-in ballot duplicates merged. 96% of the ballots that came in on 2 of these days were duplicates. Auditors discovered evidence that millions of files of general election data and security logs were deleted, with purges taking place in critical days, including the day before the audit began on February 2nd, 2021. Bullet point: the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors admitted they purged the system and moved election data after they received a subpoena. Bullet point: another analysis by Dr. Shiva Adoria in Pima County found signature anomalies with mail-in ballots in precincts with anomalies high amount, over 92%. Mail-in ballots started flipping from 6% Republican for Biden to 40% of Republicans voting for Biden, which is highly suspect. Bullet point: 2 precincts in Pima had over 100% turnout for mail-in ballots, which is impossible, and 40 precincts had over 97% return. Bullet point: the audit discovered numerous state election laws were broken in the 2020 presidential election, including ARS 16, 547, ARS 16, 548, ARS 16, 550, ARS 16, 551, ARS 16552, ARS 16 621, ARS 16 Articles 1, 1.1, and 2. This is from, page 7. Okay, moving on. Bullet point: 2,500 duplicated ballots created from a damaged ballot
had no serial numbers, a violation of ARS 16-621. Bullet point. 1,919 mail-in ballot envelopes were missing signatures, a violation of ARS 16-547. Bullet point. Maricopa County reported 1,455, quote, no signatures, unquote, on mail-in ballot envelopes. Bullet point. To this day, Maricopa County has never provided chain of custody documents for all election equipment and ballots in violation of ARS 16-621E. Bullet point. At least 740,000 ballots violated chain of custody requirements in Maricopa County. Now we're going on to page 9. Georgia.
Georgia! 43,907 ballots from Facebook-funded drop boxes were counted in Maricopa County. That violated the chain of custody rules. Remember, Georgia was decided by 11,779 votes. Poll workers were caught scanning ballots multiple times on camera in Fulton County. Ballot images confirmed at least 3,390 duplicate votes were counted for Biden, at least 10,300 illegal cast votes in Georgia, and up to 35,000 are from individuals who voted in the wrong county. More than scanning to tip the 2020 results. Brad Raffensperger, not my favorite burger at all, owns investigation in Fulton County, reported ballots were unaccounted for. He witnessed at least 2,800 ballots that came in the mail carts instead of black ballot bins, violating chain of custody, and reported 1,200 ballots were cured and wheeled in through the back door days after Election Day, when President Trump's massive lead shrunk as more votes continued to tallied in Fulton County. The investigators also found identical vote tallies repeated multiple times that likely resulted in about 1,000 extra votes being tallied for Joe Biden. A week after the private memo we sent to him, Brad Raffensperger falsely claimed publicly that the election results were trustworthy and sound when he knew they were not. Raffensperger was told of numerous irregularities on a video conference call with Republicans after 2020 election that put the election into doubt. Election board of members in Gurgle County that we have more ballots than we have envelopes. I don't think it was done right. Hundreds of votes were taken away from Trump after election workers altered ballots that were rejected by voting machines. Trump voters were thrown out while spoiled ballots were unlawfully counted for Joe Biden. During the hand recount, tally sheets were falsified, showing numerous vote counts for Joe Biden, including 100-0 and 200-0 fraudulent counts. Michigan officials in Detroit illegally blocked Republican poll challengers' access, covered the windows, called the police, and denied lawful challenges in order to count ballots in secret. Affidavits and video evidence showed thousands of ballots being delivered through a back door of the then-named TCF Center 3:3 a.m. on election night. The Renos and the state Senate confirmed this also in their report, analyzing that the 2020 election, and said a large volume of ballots were delivered at the TCF Center, which is no chain of custody. Those ballots come from drop boxes. Matt DiPromo found voting machines were subverted and accessed remotely. In Antrim County, 7,048 votes were changed in favor of Joe Biden. Instead of TCF, they should have relied on my favorite Colonel, KFC. Pennsylvania. Who could forget Pennsylvania? In Pennsylvania, as of February 2021, there were 121,240 more votes than voters. By law, Pennsylvania cannot certify an election with this type of discrepancy. A lawsuit filed in Delaware County reveals video evidence of election officials discussing destroying evidence from November 2020. It's a felony, one official says, after talking about the need to get rid of voting pads, second scanners, videos, and
Sources involved in the litigation say the
Delaware County officials volunteered numerous election laws and needed to hide evidence, and that the destruction of records was done to ensure records eventually provided election matches to election results that were reported in November 2020. Attorney General Bill Barr ordered U.S. Attorney Bill McSwain to stand down and not investigate election irregularities, even after McSwain reported that office records various allegations of voter fraud and election irregularities. Wisconsin, you're gonna love Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, nearly 200,000 voters identified as indefinitively defined, confined, something fined they couldn't find, even though that was often not the case. They were simply using COVID as a means to skirt voter ID laws for mail-in ballots. These ballots should have been thrown out after the 2020 presidential election. The judge ruled that Democrat governor did not have legal authority to accept all voters to get an absentee ballot without an ID. 44,272 people, according to the Wisconsin Legislative Audit Bureau, voted in November 2020 without even showing voter ID, which is more than twice the voter margin in the state. The Wisconsin Election Commission ordered nursing homes to violate election laws, leading widespread voter fraud and 95 to 100% turnout in nursing homes and impossibility. In a powerful ruling by Wisconsin Supreme Court, drop boxes that were used in the 2020 election were found to be illegal. In a concerning opinion, justice stated, if elections are conducted outside the law, the people have not confirmed their consent, and the government, such elections are unlawful and their results are illegitimate.
We have covered 5 swing states. This does not pertain to the rest of the country. For example, what is being done about the cash for votes scheme in Nevada, where 15 out of 17 counties had more votes than voters? Question mark. Is this committee going to report on the millions of FBI wanted to pay Christopher Steele as an incentive to prove the dossier allegations and get Trump? Or is it going to get to the bottom of the fact that my campaign was blatantly spied on by the Democrats, even while I was in the Oval Office, in what for anyone else would be one of the biggest scandals in political history? It was also recently reported that the FBI interfered in the 2020 presidential election by telling Facebook and the media not to reveal anything about Hunter Biden's laptop. The FBI said it was Russian disinformation, but knew that it wasn't. It was a well-guarded secret that only one newspaper had the courage to report.
8 in 10 Americans believe this unprecedented collusion impacted the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. In addition, True the Vote, the nation's leading voters' rights organization, collected over 4 million minutes of ballot Dropbox video showing ballot stuffing at a level not seen before. This is also supported by highly accurate cell phone data that tracked the same individuals going to as many as 28 different locations in one day to do this. All in all, millions of ballots were stuffed. Based on their research, True the Vote estimates as many as 7% of the mail-in ballots cast could have been illegible, approximately 4.8 million votes, an election-changing number many times over. Also, why haven't you spoke with the USPS Inspector General and the U.S. Election Assistance Commission about the 1.1 million mail-in ballots that they admitted were deemed undeliverable? 560,814 rejected and 14.7 million still unable to be tracked, as the Public Interest Legal Foundation uncovered? Where are they? To this day, new evidence is emerging as patriots around the country are uncovering systematic problems with their voter rolls. Furthermore, Republican counties across the nation, from Texas to Michigan, Arizona to Wisconsin, and more, have voted to decertify and reject the 2020 election. The most recent Rasmussen poll on this issue found a staggering 55% think, that's 55% think, cheating likely affected the outcome, including 53% of independents and 35% of Democrats, revealing this issue is not going away. There are many other facts and discrepancies that we are not presenting at this time due to time constraints, but that are also election determinative. At your request, I will present these additional numbers to you, but everything already presented would change the final election results many times over.
Wow. Now, Absurd TV cannot verify or actually believe anything that was just said. But you can do your own research. There was over 60 court cases around, and Trump basically lost all of them. So this was investigated, and I don't think any of that stuff was true. But have a great day.